going to be
think
so
that's an
difficult.
exception, though.
It's-
Brett Favre decided
Check
to
his
come
birth
back at
certificate.
4.
I think it's 50-something.
That's his choice. If he's coming back at 40
don't
to
know,
play
these-
football.
Plus, he's playing in Wranglers, and that's no padding.
These guys are going to get hurt earlier and more often, and unfortunately, as much fun as it would be to add 2 extra games, it's just not going to be good for the players in the long run.
What about how perfectly the scheduling breaks down right now? With the 16-game schedule, you've got your division opponents, and then you play your 2 other conferences. That way, everyone gets the same schedule except for the differences in home and away, with your one playing with the opponents you play once. But the way the scheduling breaks down, it's perfect. You play every team every certain amount of years, and it makes sense. So the 18-game season would throw that off, and we go back to the way it was before realignment, where you had a lot more random and you had strength of schedule differences and those kinds of things. Is that fair? Isn't that a part of what we should be talking about?
I mean, if as a fan I could see some marquee matchups in these extra 2 games, some rivalry games. I'm sure there's a way they can definitely make it fair so these schedules come out even. I don't think it's going to turn into chaos where one team has to play the Bucks and the Jags and has 2 easy wins, and that's going to propel them to the playoffs. I'm sure that it can be remodeled.
I think it's incredibly important that the NFL address some of the health issues. I understand that people have always been getting concussions in the NFL. Now we can only diagnose them better, which is why it seems like they're happening all the time. But health issues are a serious problem, and I think the worst thing you could do is expect these guys to play more. I think one of the important things to consider is the life of running backs. Like the playing life of these guys is incredibly short now, even if they're incredibly prolific. It's so impossible to say that these guys should play more games per season when they're already playing a shorter number of seasons every year because they just can't keep it up physically. Segment 4 goes to Max, which gives him a 3-1 victory on Unstoppable this week. I think that's Andrew's first loss of the year. And Max's first win. So Max is unstoppable today, but the show is also unstoppable because we've still got another segment left. We're going to talk about a little NCAA football. Who's the best coach? Let's say if GW football had a program right now, which every freshman Hatchet reporter has to write about, GW needs a football team. Who would we want as the coach if we had infinite money? Who is the best coach in college football? Max.
Actually, I think the answer for those might be different, but in terms of the original question, I think the best coach in college football has to be Joe Paterno. I think longevity is a huge factor in how you view a coach. I like, Jeff Fisher is a Tennessee Titans coach. He's been there the longest, and I think that says something about, how he's done and his rapport with the team. So Joe Paterno has been the head coach of Penn State since 1966. That's 44 years. He's had only 5 losing seasons.
Before my parents were born.
And the first year that he was the head coach, his record was 5-5, and he didn't have a losing season till 20 years into his reign over there. He has the most wins as an FBS coach of all time, most bowl wins of all time.
Too soon for Bobby Bad?
He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. And he's been there the longest. And, while some great players have obviously come out of Penn State, at least recently in the past decade or so, and, he's really old. He was born, in like 1920s. They haven't had the most prolific players, but yet they've still had, great winning seasons. The Big Ten's down a little bit now, but, Joe Paterno to still be there, it's not really, I don't think it's maybe almost a charity, but, he is that good of a coach.
There's so many big names, guys that perform consistently. Is it Joe Pa?
He's a great coach, and you do have the longevity issue, but there's a lot of coaches who are still young coaches who will continue and will eventually get around that rank. Things with Joe Pa, even though you have all these winning seasons, a 7-4 season is still a winning season. If you have a lot of average seasons, even though he's perennially ranked, you think of Penn State. But I have to go with Nick Saban, the coach of the championship.
The Tide.
Yeah, the Crimson Tide. And what you got to go to the best conference in football. You got to go to the SEC. This is a guy who won championships with both LSU and also Alabama last year. And that, to go to 2 different programs and turn them into championship programs must be extremely difficult. I'm not hitting on the Big Ten, but SEC football is usually each year, very much more competitive than the Big Ten. Another coach I like to point out, Jim Tressel, though.
Yeah,
Ohio State coach.
The sweater vest.
Yeah, the sweater vest, and he's been in Ohio State since 2001, has gone to a high-ranked bowl game every year, 3 national championships, and I believe they'll go back to the national championship this year. I think we're going to see those two coaches playing each other in the national championship. But, yeah, Nick Saban as the steady, coach in the SEC who can turn the program into a championship like that.
What about coaches, younger guys that are already making incredible differences in their programs, like Harbaugh at Stanford or Chip Kelly at Oregon? I understand it might be too
Patterson
soon to
at
say they're
Boise
the best,
State.
but these guys have made massive differences in their program in just a few years. Doesn't that mean they're a really, really good coach?
I honestly, I don't know. I can't supervise them day to day, but I just know that from this long history period standpoint, I mean, Joe Paterno has proven that he's the best, and Nick Saban's also a good option. I think if you look at coaches like Mac Brown, Urban Meyer, those could also be good options. But you think about all the star players they've had to help them get there, and I realize football is not based
Who's
on
recruiting these star players?
Yeah.
Who's heading the strategy to get these players in and make it a championship team?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all.
I think you might have argued Jim Carroll before he moved
Pete
back
Carroll.
to
That's
before he
what
moved
I
back
was.
to the Seahawks.
I was about to ask
but,
that.
Carroll,
I guess he's not
would it be-
eligible anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's not eligible, but would we? I mean, I think we would have
Yes,
talked about him. But
I think he would have been the answer. I mean, USC was just the most dominant college football team in the past 10 years.
I think not just the team, the program itself, because
Right.
of the way they
Well,
were able
unfortunately,
to
it
produce
didn't.
players to go to the NFL.
Give
but-
players
and also
gifts
too
and-
soon.
Yeah.
Also too soon. Talked about that last week on Unstoppable. I enjoyed that. I think there's lots of good choices to choose from. I think that one will have to go to Andrew just because I think Joe Pa, while he's the coach, like he's the idea of a college football coach. There's been a lot of mediocrity in the last 10, 15 years out of Penn State. Yes, ranked, but no one actually picking him to do anything. Just ranked and good. By their standards and the way they bring in athletes, mediocre.
They're perennially 20th ranked.
Exactly.
each year.
I mean, that's
they
where
don't go
they
up, they don't go down.
That's where they belong. And if they go higher, then they have to lose, so they fall lower again. Like it's just how it works. On to rapid fire to wrap up this edition of Unstoppable with Max as the champion. Let's see. The Ryder Cup is coming up. Golf's most exciting event. The golf's only real prolific team event. Are we expecting anything from it? Is the USA going to pull it out?
Why not? Tiger Woods is still he's playing. I understand
Still Tiger Woods?
Still Tiger Woods.
The name is still there anyway. He hasn't had the best year going for him, but anytime he's on your team,
Phil Mickelson as well?
hopefully he's still the best golfer in the world. I think he's got it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very competitive with Europeans and Lee Westwood.
I mean, everyone's saying the Europeans are going to win, but they said that last time too.
Yeah, it really depends who shows up. If the old Tiger's going to show up, the new Tiger's going to show up, and who's ready to play.
Yep.
So I think the Americans can pull it off. It just really depends on those big two, Tiger and Mickelson.
Heading into, we'll be talking more NBA in the next few weeks on Unstoppable, but just a quick little NBA taste. Melo, there's been a lot of talk where he's going to go. Is he going to be in Denver next year?
No.
After next year?
Because he's coming to the Sixers this year.
Going to the Sixers?
For Iguodala.
Oh my
In
goodness.
the what will be heralded as the worst trade in NBA history.
The Iguodala for Melo.
For Melo.
Dream about that. He's
Oh,
not
you
coming
wanted to go to the
Philadelphia.
Nets?
He's
The
not-
Nets?
He's not going to be in Denver after this year. They can't keep him. He's already out of their ads and everything, and they're acting kind of as if he's like gone. And yeah, I am a Nets
He's
fan.
a lame duck
And
player.
I thought
He's a
I
lame
thought he
duck
was
player.
coming over, and now all of a sudden he says, "Oh, I never asked for
I
a
don't know
trade."
what he's
So you know
doing.
what? Screw him. I don't want him anywhere.
And then lastly, just a quick NASCAR touch because it's the NASCAR postseason heading into the last few races. It's one of America's larger, at least, sporting events. Whether or not it's a sport is debatable. But Jimmy
drive.
Johnson wins every year. He's kind of killed the sport because he wins all the time and it makes it boring. Is he going to win again?
I don't know. Probably. I don't like
He's
NASCAR.
the
it's
best
it's
at
not a
turning
sport,
left.
but
He can do
I
it.
assume
He is
he's
the
going
best.
to win.
He's the best at turning left.
He's
and
very
going,
skilled at
and
making
going
these
in
left
a
turns.
mile and a half. Yeah, that's
He knows
about
how
what
to
Jimmy
press the
Johnson does.
accelerator. He knows how to press the brake. Some skill
Well,
sets
that's
there.
debatable. That'll do it for us here on Unstoppable. We hope you enjoyed this edition. Stay tuned for more excellent GW programming on Channel 61. We are Max, Chris, and Andrew, and we'll see you next week.